Hello and welcome to episode 2 of McDuffie Minute, the podcast that covers everything you need to know about your government in McDuffie County, from Thomson to Deering to the county, the school system, and all points between. I'm your host, Jason Smith.
And I'm Christopher Wells. On this episode, we're talking about a huge topic that seems to be consistently in the news today: safety in the public sector. So joining us first today is our police chief in Thomson, Courtney Gale. And later we'll be talking to McDuffie County Schools Auxiliary Services Director, Dr. Cecil Strong, who oversees the school system's public safety department. And we'll discuss coordination of active threat drills with him. So for now, though, welcome to the podcast, Chief Gale.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. So let's talk a little bit first about your role here with some of the things that you do and some of the changes that you made since you've gotten here and that you're looking to make.
Sure. So I want to say new police chief to the City of Thomson Police Department, but it's 13 months in play now. So I am the police chief, and I am directly overseeing officers and detectives in the police department. And our encompassing charge is to keep the community safe as much as we can. Like everyone else, we have had staffing shortages and issues like that. So it's exhausting on some of these officers when you're working 16 hours because something runs late. So we're doing our best, and we've got a great bunch of officers. I've got one officer, he is from the city of Thomson. Well, I've got a couple that are from the city, but my newest officer is finishing up training, and he's from the city of Thomson. So very excited to have your local additions to our team. They know people, they have that relationship, and you're going to hear me say that a lot. It's all about relationship development.
First, I know something about you that you didn't mention. You came to us from the national champions. So talk to us a little bit about what you did before you came here.
Sure. So I've been in law enforcement for 24 years. I worked in Athens, Georgia for the Athens-Clarke County Police Department for 19 and a half years, and then the University of Georgia for another 3.5 years. And then I've been here for a little over a year now. And it was amazing experience. You have a lot of similar issues in Athens that we have here in Thomson. So it's a great base to come from. The university brings its additional crowds, let's say, 100 plus on a given Saturday in the fall, makes it for, again, a long day.
We don't have events of that size here, obviously.
Thank goodness. One thing I don't miss.
All right. So I do have a question, being from the school system myself. In the days following the school shooting in Uvalde, you helped organize a community vigil here. You talked a little bit about the work you're doing in conjunction with the sheriff's department to take illegal guns off the street. What's going on with that effort since the vigil? So
we are continuing to work every day with cases involving the illegal, and I want to say this over and over again, the illegal possession of firearms. We are encountering juveniles in possession of firearms that are adapted. They've adapted the functioning of the weapon, so it's fully automatic. It's quite scary. We're also with larger weapons, meaning rifle-type weapons. We're coming across those, and our officers, they continuously are creating cases where there are gun charges that are attached to. It usually starts off as a traffic stop. And we have had, actually, after the community vigil, we've had a few parents call us and say, I don't want these. I don't know. Can we get rid of these? And so we will take the firearms, we will check them to see their foundation, and then we'll process them so that they're no longer out there to be stolen or, in the hands of somebody that cannot legally own a firearm. And I say that a lot. There are so many law-abiding citizens out there, and we fully, observe and also value the Second Amendment of our Constitution. So I like to say that over and over, and reinforcing that we are protecting the law-abiding citizens just as much.
One of the things you mentioned was improving the participation of the community and that community policing efforts that you do. Talk to us a little bit about those. And I know you're working in the school system some with some mentoring and some active shooter threats that they've taken the lead on, but you've certainly consulted with them. So let's talk a little bit about first your community policing and building the relationship with the community.
So what we're finding, it's a great community to work with. Your school district personnel are very involved. The McDuffie County Parks and Recreation Department has many programs for our youth. And what we find is when we come together and say, here's what we have, now it's a matter of pulling it together. How do we get the kids to the programs? So that's the next step we're taking. But this community is very involved. And every conversation I have had, there is a willingness for people to help. And I understand that there are areas where people live and they don't necessarily feel completely safe to talk. And that's why I want to reach out to those people, because in my philosophy, in my life, I don't want anybody to live in fear. And that's unacceptable. And so we want to do our part as much as possible. But at the same time, those residents really need, there are eyes, there are ears. So we need to hear from them. We do have a crime tip line. It's anonymous. There are certain things that we have to substantiate. So if we get an anonymous tip, we're going to have to go back and reinforce where that information came from and verify it. Trust but verify. But that crime line phone number is 706-597-7338. And I can only encourage the community to please, approach us, talk to us, call us if you're not comfortable, being seen, communicating with us. And there have been some instances where somebody has turned in a firearm and said, I don't want anything to do with this. I don't want to give any information about who I am. And I'll say, okay, I will take that. We're going to check it through the ATF to make sure it's not stolen or listed as missing. And then we will hold on to it. If there's a lawful owner out there, we will return that firearm as long as they can show proof of ownership. But again, back to the community, it is a wonderful, involved community, and we just need to really keep that momentum going.
Community involvement is awesome, and getting that trust with your officers is, I know, a constant battle law enforcement fights all the time. But part of, I think, building that trust is starting young. So talk to me a little bit about the mentoring that you're doing in some of the schools and working literally hand in hand with some of these kids.
So the police department, we are not in the school. Our mentors are not in the school. What we're doing is we're communicating. And so if there's a way for us to communicate and say, hey, this incident happened, or vice versa, they can tell us about an incident that happened. So there's better communication. And then we're trying to reach out. We're working with the Boys and Girls Club as well. We've started some conversations with them as well, because they are a central location. They have a facility that can provide space for activities. So that's where we're talking about what programs we want to get these kids in touch with.
So I know one of the things that we've discussed and that we've talked about, and you got some coverage on in the local media, was an active threat training that you did with local first responders and fire department. And I know you've got plans to take that and move elsewhere with it. Talk to me a little bit about that and what the goal of that training is.
Sure. We have to. We have no other choice in today's day and age to be prepared and train collectively with other organizations, meaning other public safety elements, fire, EMS, school district police, other sheriff's departments in the area. So not only McDuffie County Sheriff's Department, but beyond, because these are massive events and they're very fast evolving. So what we're doing is we've had one classroom portion, and there's guidelines through the federal system of the Homeland Security. They have basically presented ways to respond. So there's more of a universal base to respond. So it doesn't matter where you work. We're kind of talking the same language. The NIMS, National Incident Management System. So we're getting that language amongst all of these different stakeholders. I mean, we've got Georgia State Police troopers that are in our area. And if there's a call like that, they will respond. And in the end, we all need to talk the same language. So we're going through the classroom phase right now for law enforcement and public safety. Once we get beyond that, and we are planning on towards the end of September to be doing some actual physical walkthrough type training. We call it practical training, where they are going through the buildings and identifying the threat, where is it at, and, doing the first aid application. So we've had a first aid and CPR class, getting people all their certifications up. And then we plan to broaden that education to the government employees and then the general public. So it's kind of a cascade effect. We have to know what we're doing first.
Sure.
And then, broadcast it outwards. And, we understand we have city workers out there on the streets all the time. And I've said this, they might see somebody walking down the street with a long gun. Nothing illegal about that if they're just walking with it. But if they see something unfold rather quickly, they're seeing stuff, they need to know to, one, take cover, so they're safe. Don't want anybody to get hurt. And then call 911. Get that information. Get a good description of what it is you see. And then we will come in. We don't want anybody to rush and become, endangered themselves. If you have an opportunity to get out of the threat area, then please do. So that's our plan. And then we're going to continue to train because we have new people coming in all the time. So it's just a repetition of training.
Sure.
I think there is just this concern with we are seeing an uptick and this is a national trend. It's not just the city or the county, but we are seeing the uptick in violent crimes. And so we as a community have to say that's not okay. We don't want to live in fear. That being said, I understand it's safer or it's easier said than done to stop that, but it's one piece and then two pieces, everybody coming together for this puzzle to find the solution that works for the city and the county. And there is this momentum of One Thomson, and I can only say how excited I am about this idea and bringing that into our public safety element as well. We are One Thomson. We are one McDuffie. It is together we are going to solve these problems. Not one group has all of the answers or solutions. And so we have to come together. Let's talk about it, but let's do something. Let's stop talking and let's try something. It might not work the first time, but let's try. We'll adjust and adapt. And that's how you come through with successful outcomes, not just by all this talk. So that's where we're coming out with the active threat training. We, all these groups have had some training, but we haven't trained together with the new parties that are involved. So that's what we're going to do. With our youth, we need to focus on our youth. If we have issues getting the youth to the programs that already exist, let's fill that gap. And then hopefully it'll be more appealing for them to participate in the activities with the Parks and Recreation or the schools that they have after school, whether it's studying, rather than, turning to the streets and the violence that's there. Because the last thing I want to do is to lock up a kid or to respond to a call where a kid has been hurt and I don't even want to say what, the outcome could be. But in the end, I don't want to see bad things happen to these kids. They're kids being kids, but they don't need to be with guns in their hands.
Yeah, it's the old, people say it and it sounds flippant, but it's really not. You'd love to work yourself out of a job when it comes down to it. Mm-hmm. And the biggest challenge to that, a lot of that is that community involvement aspect of things.
Well, and I just want to say that the group of officers at the Thomson Police Department are dedicated to working with these kids. We bought bicycles for them last Christmas. We're planning on doing that again this year. We're doing the Faith in Blue. So we're trying to reach out to other elements in the community to get a hold of the youth because the churches have youth programs. Other religious organizations have programs for the youth. And so I can only say, let's all get in on this. And, one kid is going to want to play sports. Another kid's going to want to play music. Another kid is going to want to perform in the artistic realm. So how do we connect the dots? And that's what it's a matter of organization. It's a matter of coming together as one.
So you mentioned the Faith in Blue event, and that's a new one for us. We haven't really had that one here. We're familiar with National Night Out, but tell us a little bit about Faith in Blue and some of the plans associated with it that are coming up in October, if I'm not mistaken.
It is, yes. So the Faith in Blue initiative is a national event, and it's actually international. It's put on, or it was really originated through the International Association Chiefs of Police, and then really they give an outline of, goals, and the mission is to bridge the community in a different arena. So you have your faith-based organizations and then the law enforcement community. We come together, prayer vigils, but also at social events. But you do it at the religious organizations headquarters, or, wherever there, if it's a church or a synagogue or a temple of some type. You come together, you have events, you have conversation. And so it's really following that element. And so we've got several organizations here in the city of Thomson and the county that are wanting to participate. And so it's a combination. We've got prayer services, and it's all voluntary. So we're, hoping that there'll be a large outcome with our youth and with our citizens to attend, pray, and work towards solutions.
What do you think would be, just for the average citizen out in Thomson, or maybe even in the county, for those of us who don't live in the city limits, what's the most important thing that we can do that would help you guys out in achieving your goals for keeping the public safe?
Well, we have a wonderfully supportive community. And I understand that at times people don't want to get involved. They don't want to get into the mix. But it's that whole adage, if you see something, say something. And that means call 911, report it. What did you see? The sooner we get involved, the more likely we are to find the solutions, whatever's going on. And I understand that some people are just want to mind their own business. And I appreciate that. I really do. But at the same time, when it comes to the world we live in, whether it's terrorism or it's just a local incident, it could be a car broken down on the side of the road. Call and say, hey, I don't know if this guy's got any help, but the car's broken down. It's in the roadway. Get us involved. It's that simple. I welcome people to stop by the police department on Main Street. If, I'm more than happy I would love to introduce, myself. I know it's been 13 months. I'm trying to get out there as much as possible. And it's really been a phenomenal experience. And the school district has been wonderful. The sheriff's department has been wonderful working with us. And because of the limited resources as a whole, when we come together, we are that much better to address these problems. And that's how we're going to find the solutions.
So thanks, Chief Gale, one, for coming to our community. And happy little late anniversary. And thank you for being here today and sharing your mission with us. And we hope we can do all we can do to support you in that.
Well, I thank you. And I thank you for the invitation. I love it here. It's really been a wonderful experience. And hopefully some of these goals will come to fruition in terms of getting the police department to full staff and getting some of these programs in place where we can actually see the end results, which would be fewer violent crimes and really a safer community as a whole.
So as we've talked about the importance of getting involved and the importance of communication and trust with local law enforcement and other emergency personnel, I want to transition now to those officers who are within the school system that are interacting with students every day, and welcome Dr. Cecil Strong with us, who oversees the school system's public safety department. So, Dr. Strong, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me today and allowing me to be a representative for the school district. I really appreciate this opportunity.
I want to ask you a few questions about the public safety department. Can you tell us a little bit about what your officers, we call them school resource officers, can you tell us a little bit about their department and what they do on a daily basis?
Yes, sir. Right now, our school resource officers, we have 6 resource officers in the district. We have one at each school, and we're definitely looking to hire 2 additional officers. The scope of their assignments, so they essentially is to keep all of our students safe. They are patrolling the areas outside the school buildings of the perimeter and the interior of the facilities. In addition to that, the role of the school resource officer as a contact point for our young people to communicate with our public safety and to look to ensure a safe environment for our young people on a day-to-day basis.
We also discussed this question with Chief Gale, and I wanted to ask you, so in light of recent school shootings in communities of similar size in McDuffie County, such as Uvalde, how has local law enforcement and your school resource officers worked together to begin training for some of those type of situations so that we'll be ready should the situation arise?
Yes, sir. That's a very valid question, and my heart goes out to the communities such as Uvalde have experienced such tragic events. In saying that, McDuffie County, the city of Thomson, and the McDuffie County School District, we've taken a proactive approach, even prior to Uvalde, where we're looking at active threat training situations and scenarios. And we've also worked closely with our emergency management system. We want to have those protocols in place where we can address, I won't say any threat that comes up, but we can address many issues that occur, and we want to move forward as far as ensuring the safety of our young people and this community. And again, that the situations that have occurred in Uvalde and in places like that, that's unseen and unheard of many times, but we need to be proactive in the steps that we take in ensuring the safety of our young people.
Part of that conversation has to be about communication and some mentoring. And, I've been in the community almost 40 years, and I remember when there weren't even when I came through the school system, there weren't resource officers. And if I remember correctly, it was a sheriff's deputy from time to time, and then it became your full force. Talk to us a little bit about the value of being in the schools and having those open lines of communication and building those relationships and that trust with both students and parents.
I've been in McDuffie County for over 20 years, and to be coming from another school district and being employed with a district that actually had resource officers, that is a tremendous advantage for not only the administrators and teachers, students, but also the parents to be able to open those lines of communication and reach out and be able to have someone that you can speak with about issues that may be occurring in the community that may transition and spill over into the schools. We are at a point with communication-wise, even with our strategic system, we're able to communicate outside threats, threats that have happened inside of the building. We're able to communicate with the county, with the sheriff department, and Sheriff Marshall has been really proactive from that standpoint. We've been able to contact communication with the city. So it has placed McDuffie County in a unique situation. We've been proactive in many of the approaches we've had. We've been light years ahead of districts, and we look forward to that type of communication with the local law enforcement outside of the school district. Also, we've updated our surveillance systems inside the schools. We're able to pinpoint with some accuracy incidents that have occurred. Also, on that lines, and the same thing with our transportation department. We're looking toward enhancing all of those features and just the threats alone. We've taken a proactive approach, and I venture so far as to say, even with our transportation department, many of our buses are equipped with cameras. If you pass a bus that is at a stop or a standstill and is letting students enter the bus or to exit the vehicle, if you pass those vehicles, we're recording those. We're having our officers to write those citations, and for repeat violations, of course, that goes to the courts. We want to ensure the safety for all of our young people in the community, and that's extremely important.
You did, in that answer just then, mention the strategic system, and I know Dr. Rose was on this program for our first episode and mentioned strategics as part of the overall safety plan. Can you sort of reiterate for our listeners what that system is and what it does?
Well, the strategic system is a notification system, an alert notification system that sends out an electronic message to those individuals who are responsible as far as receiving alerts. So any district employee can press the Centegix badge, and it's a badge attached to a lanyard that usually is around an individual's neck. So if a teacher had an incident where you had a student who had a fall on the playground, the teacher could push that badge and alert of the incident, and then you would get a response from the administrator, and they would know that, hey, that is the type of incident that has occurred, and could pinpoint the exact location. So it time tracks and allows from the superintendent on down to all of the administrators in that building to know exactly where the incident occurred, where the young person had an incident on the playground. And there are 3 levels. Level 2 would be a step up, but you would follow the same procedure as far as the notification is concerned. Now, I hope we never have to use this, but we also have the ability at a level 3, and that is the point in which the McDuffie County Sheriff Department is they're contacted, and the City Police Department, they're contacted, which means that would be a system-wide lockdown. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's time is of the essence when you're dealing with situations like that, as far as being able to report an incident and the officer know exactly where the incident is occurring. It cuts down on the response time, and I'm delighted that we have such a system. Hope we never have to use it, but it is a tool, just like everything else. And in many of those situations, time is of the essence, so we want to have the quickest response as possible.
Can you also go into a little bit about for us how students and parents maybe can take an active role in helping your team of resource officers and the school system in general in helping to promote and ensure safety?
Yes, and that's an excellent question in asking what can parents do, but what can all individuals in the community, how can we respond and help with our young people to ensure their safety? We have open communication. You call the school, our officers are available, administrators are available, teachers. We also have other resources that sometimes we don't think about, such as our school social workers. They play an active part in many of the interactions as far as the communication is concerned. They bridge the gap sometimes, and we want to make sure that all individuals are on the same page in a sense. And use old terminology, we want to put it where the goats can get it, so everybody can get out and see what's exactly taking place. And that is the key, I think. Open communication with our department, with the city police department, and with the sheriff department. We can be proactive in a sense on many of the incidents that occur within our community. Our community, it's small enough that we know many of the individuals, and we just, like I said, I know I keep saying the term proactive, but that's what we want to be. We want to be a part of the community, and we want parents to feel free to come and communicate with us. We want our young people to feel free to be able to speak with their teachers, administrators, and our school resource officers about things that are occurring in school and out of school.
So I think Chief Gale said this also during her portion. It was if you see something, say something. Is that accurate for inside the school as well?
Yes, sir. See something, say something. I'll even go so far as if you think of something. I know that's far-fetched, but sometimes if you an inkling, a feeling, if you see an individual who's not acting in the character that it normally would act, help that individual. We want to be a sounding board in a sense for our young people and help them academically and socially, because we're trying to build young people who are going to be productive citizens in our community. So we're going the entire gambit as far as trying to help our young people. So yes, if you see something, say something. That's the only way that we can help individuals.
So, Dr. Strong, we talked a little bit about the potentially violent situations, those situations that may seem just, quote unquote, a little bit off. But what other type of incidents, situations, activities is your agency equipped to deal with?
Well, I said we're one of the few agencies in the CSRA that's actually equipped with a K-9 unit. We have a certified K-9 handler. Of course, we don't want to ever have those situations that we do have to, we do encounter them sometimes. Young people make mistakes, and people who are outside, as far as events, we have the capability to walk around with our canine and alert on those situations and be, again, proactive in taking those steps to remove those items from off of our campuses.
Dr. Strong, I want to take a moment. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for opening the doors about school information and the things that, both students, parents, and even us who are just in the community can do to help your officers and help make everybody's life a little safer.
Thank you for allowing me to be here today. I also want to thank Dr. Rhodes, Superintendent of McDuffie County Schools, for the vision that we have in the Board of Education, the proactive approaches, and I love that word, proactive approaches we've taken with our Department of Public Safety. And I sincerely thank you, gentlemen, for allowing me the platform today to speak on these topics. So I appreciate that greatly, and thank you.
All right. We appreciate you coming, Dr. Strong, and we also appreciate Chief Gale for coming. Thank you also to our returning and our new listeners for logging on and tuning in. Keep coming back here for more ways to make your community a reflection of you. In fact, when you see something in our community not going the way you think it should, go ask someone how to get involved and how you might be able to volunteer to help improve things in our community. It's one of the things that's important to us here at McDuffie Minute.
And that even goes as far as Chris works for the school system. I work for the various other governmental agencies around here. If there's something you're not happy with, let one of us know. That's what we're here for. I can't promise we'll solve every problem, but we can certainly try, and we certainly talk about it. And one thing I do want to mention is that, remember, there's an anonymous tip line available. It's 706-597-7338. And, we keep saying, see something, say something. But I really like what Dr. Strong said about even if you don't necessarily see something, you have that inkling about something, get involved. You never know when your little inkling may make a huge difference. So when you get a chance, take a minute, think about your community, take a listen to us, and learn a little bit about McDuffie. Thanks, y'all.